بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream as we are heading now into week number 3 of the month of Sha'ban, if that's correct. Yes, we are in week number 3, which means that next Tuesday will be the final week of Sha'ban, and then the Tuesday after that, it will be our first stream in the month of Ramadan. We do stream week 1 and 2 and part of week 3, and then we'll be hitting into the last 10 nights. But actually, I actually won't be with you on week 3. Maybe we'll have someone else sit in for that, but we have the Umrah trip. So if you want to do the Umrah trip, Omar can post that up. But today, let's get straight into today's program. And we have a special guest today. We all know Brother Mansour Shouman from various TV stations that you watch in English. And he is from Jerusalem, and you definitely have seen him on YouTube. Locals from our community were in Syria and bumped into him and interacted. And alhamdulillah, that has ended up with him being with us here on the live stream. So let's shift it over. Welcome to the Nothing But Facts live stream.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me, Dr. Shadee. It's an honor.
Okay, let's begin with your background. And I know many people know your voice. They know your face, but they may not know your background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into this work as well?
Sure. SubhanAllah, I've always tried to volunteer my time into serving Islam, serving the community. However, I never became like full-time into the work of media, political advocacy, charity work until, SubhanAllah, I was in Gaza a year and a half ago. I have a bachelor's of engineering and an MBA from Canadian universities. Until up to a few months ago, I was working full time as a director of consulting with a Big Four firm here in the Middle East.
Oh, really?
Yes, and SubhanAllah, I found that trying to do both full time work career-wise and trying to serve the Ummah at the same time, and trying to care for my family was too much. So I decided to do full-time work, trying to do charity work, trying to do media work, trying to do political advocacy. Right now, I'm a full-time consultant with a firm that allows me to do this full-time charity work, that allows me to do this full-time political advocacy work, plus any work when it comes to media on TV stations and on social media. Right now, alhamdulillah, I just came back from a trip to Egypt, and in 2 days' time, I'm going back to Syria. I'm still very much connected with what's happening in Gaza, whether it be through doing advocacy work and through ensuring that charity work is done properly on the ground there. And SubhanAllah, Syria is definitely an area that provides a lot of positivity moving forward, I think, to the world at large.
Well, let's start with that then, and then we could work backwards. Since you brought up Syria, tell us, what are your takes on the political status in Syria, first and foremost?
First of all, SubhanAllah, we have to realize that this, alhamdulillah, result that came to Syria, it took years of work, right? You're talking about generations. From the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, there were several times, different groups of scholars, different groups of students of knowledge, different people who wanted freedom from this oppressive regime. They tried to move up against this government, right? The Assad regime was installed by the French and supported by the British and the US in recent years. And everyone in Palestine knows, especially Palestinians living in Syria, that in addition to oppressing the local Sunnah and Jama'ah population in Syria, they were also the protectors of the Zionist state of Israel, especially in its northern borders. And Hafiz al-Assad, during his time as defense minister, he actually gave the orders to all the army personnel in the Golan Heights to leave the Golan Heights and give it freely to the Israeli army during his time. So it is important that we tell the actual story of the Assad regime and the Syrian regime, that they in no ways did they support Palestine and the Palestinian cause, right? And when I went to Syria, Dr. Shadee, you should see the state of the Palestinian camps, the refugee camps. Al-Assad, unfortunately, with his troops, they bombarded these camps to the ground. Al Yarmouk camp, the biggest refugee camp outside of Palestine, is ruins. It's burnt to the ground. So when the Syrian people started the recent revolution in 2011, Alhamdulillah, this was not. This happened as a series that led to 2011 revolution, right? This wasn't a one set off, right? And this revolution, in my opinion, when it started, it wasn't only supported by the Syrian people itself. You had Muslims from all around the world supporting that revolution financially, through media, through talking about it, through politics. And yes, it had its ups and downs, right? However, Alhamdulillah, it succeeded. It succeeded recently, in my opinion. Personally, I was involved in trying to support the Syrian revolution when I was in the United Arab Emirates, Dr. Shadee. And one of the reasons I was asked to leave the United Arab Emirates and not return is because of my support for the Syrian revolution. And this is only my case, but you are talking about thousands of people who sacrificed a lot, Syrians and non-Syrians, because they truly believed that Syria is an Islamic cause. And a strong, free Syria means a strong, free Muslim world. And history has always taught us that. Inshallah, the people right now governing Syria are a true representation of the creed and ideology of the Syrian people and what they fought for over the last 14 or 15 years. And I think that as long as they have the support of the people and the upcoming youth in the hundreds of thousands across the different cities in Syria, no world government and superpower can stop them moving forward. And that's why you see all of them taking a step back and seeing how they can deal with such a government. They didn't expect this to happen. No one expected this to happen. They had a 6-month plan to take over Halab, Dr. Shadee. They never thought that they will be able to take over Damascus and the whole country in 11 days. We can delve into more details, inshallah, during this conversation. But wallahi, what happened was a miracle. And I believe that this is because of the pure intentions of the people behind it and the sacrifices made by many over several generations, not only in Syria, but across the Muslim world to make it successful.
Let's go back a little bit into history here. You mentioned that Hafiz al-Assad was part of the people, was the one who gave Israel the Golan Heights, or he gave the order to do so, and that he was not a friend of the Palestinian people nor a supporter of them. So then, exactly how did that tide change then, when the Syrians became the symbol for those who are fighting for the Palestinian people and against Israel?
So there, in the macro, so this is my personal opinion. In the macro political stage, there is the American axis and there is the Russian axis, right? And every country has to choose where they will line up with, right? So I think that the Syrian government ruled by Assad decided that it is better for them to line up with Iran, with Russia, with Hezbollah Lebanon, right? In its macro political image to the world. However, al-Assad regime always kept ties under the table with the French, with the British, with the US, right? They didn't trust anyone 100%. They tried to do what is right for them as a minority Alawite government in order to stay in power. That's why you see that during the Al-Aqsa flood operations, they didn't fully support the Palestinian resistance and Lebanon and Iran in either logistically or in allowing attacks to happen from Syria against the Zionist state. Right? They thought that if they listen and they stay quiet, they will be protected moving forward. I think that it was important for them to preserve an image that they support the resistance over the past decade or so, because they were part of this Persian axis or Russian axis. Again, this is part of the image that they try to show the world, the world, especially the Muslim world, because they know that the Muslim world will never accept them for their creed and ideology, right? Where they believe that Ali radiallahu anhu is a'udhu billah, a god, right? So they have to show some kind of they had to find a way to go into the hearts of the Muslim world. And what easier way to do that than to use Palestine? And unfortunately, anyone that wants to try to win the hearts and minds of the people around the world, the easiest way to do that is to use Palestine. Palestine is a cause that everyone can agree on. It's a holy land. It's a land that's been taken abruptly. Even in UN conventions and UN laws, they are occupied, right? So it is easy for them to ride that wave. And they successfully rode that wave, especially siding with Hezbollah, siding with Iran, right? However, if you talk to Palestinians in Syria, if you talk to the Syrians themselves, if you talk to the people of Gaza, they will tell you that they didn't receive that kind of support that they try to publicly show. I interviewed people, Palestinians who were imprisoned in the Syrian regime, right? I interviewed Palestinian women who were sexually assaulted, who were deprived of everything that makes them a human being while they were tortured inside al-Assad regime and al-Assad cells. And one of the Palestinian resistance groups, the H group, when their leader, one of their leaders, Khalid Mish'al, said publicly that they cannot support the Syrian regime in the atrocities that they are doing against the Syrian people, the next day, al-Assad regime took into custody all the local H group leaders, both the politicians and anyone that even was trying to support when it comes to logistics within Syria. And unfortunately, they were all sentenced to i'dam. They were all sentenced to they were all killed. They were all taken out. So this is the kind of regime that you are talking about. This is a regime, alhamdulillah, that I think has been a cancer in the Muslim Ummah, has been a cancer to the free world. And I think that with them gone, you will see a bright future, not only for Syria, but to the world at large. Syrians are a very strong country, full of intellects, and the richest resource is not water, is not petrol, is not minerals. Wallahi, it's their people. I remember sitting with Dr. Nabulsi in Syria, and he told me, Mansour, mashallah, very humble, amazing, gentle, amazing alim. And he talked about Gaza, he talked about Palestine, and he talked about the importance of unity. He said, Mansour, in Syria, a lot of us have a difference of opinion. A lot of us might differentiate even of items of faith on the secondary matters. But what this revolution taught us is that we need to be united. We need to work together. We need to understand what are the strengths of each other and leverage it. There will always be differences of opinion, but we need to unite. Historically, even during the times of al-Abbasiyin and al-Umayyin, you had rulers that did kaba'ir. They did things that were wrong, right? However, the Ummah remained united and strong because they had the right. They stuck to one leadership. They had proper leadership. So in his opinion, that we need to continue to be united. We needed to continue to work together towards what's better for the Ummah together.
Speaking of the Syrian people, this revolution, it seems, had a lot of people from outside helping in. And I even have some people here on our live chat asking, they're Turkish, they're Bosnian, Balkan. Is it open for people to go out and help in some capacities as engineers, architects, what have you, to physically rebuild the place?
Amazing question. Wallahi, that was one of the questions I asked them there when I was there. Look, the current government in Syria, like I said, never expected and had a plan to govern all of Syria, right? They had a 6-month plan just to free Halab. And Halab is in the north of Syria, right? So when in less than 2 weeks, they were able to control all of Syria, the local government in Idlib was moved to Damascus, sorry. And now they have an interim government that's only trying to do a needs assessment of the current situation. They are like just focusing on doing handover work from the old government. They're trying to understand what can be done moving forward with this big amana that they have on their shoulders, right? So they are now focused on utilizing their current resources that have been with them for many years and trying to field them in the best way possible in different areas around Syria. For someone new to go to Syria now and ask to be used, I don't think that they will be utilized right now in the best way possible. Because right now they're trying to equip and use the current resources they have on hand to help the country at large. Now, my understanding is if there are businessmen who want to come in and start business, start charity, try to help the country financially, there are the right routes for them to be able to do so. But when it comes to technical knowledge, I think that it's too early at this stage, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go and try. Right now, Syria is open. You can arrive as a tourist and you can try and knock on the doors of the different ministries, try to use any networks that you have on the ground to get your ideas across. But still, they are at a stage where they're trying to understand what needs to be done and what needs to be prioritized. In addition to making sure that countries around the world understand that, subhanAllah, Syria is it needs help, right? So yeah, it's a big burden and it's an amazing question.
All right, let's shift a little bit to Gaza.
Sure.
What are the so-called sales that are happening of land in Gaza? Trump inflamed everyone, said this is a great Riviera property, waterfront property, and now there are purchases going on of land that is neither the seller is not the owner. But tell us a little bit of what you know. What's the background of these alleged sales or so-called sales of land?
Sure. I don't think that Trump has a plan. I don't think that the U.S. government or even Netanyahu has a plan coinciding with Trump's statements about taking over Gaza or rebuilding Gaza in the way that he mentioned it. I think it's just a way for Trump to like put an advanced foot when it comes to negotiating a deal, right? He's putting his best case scenario. He's trying to push things in the worst way possible for Palestinians and in the best way possible for Israelis. But I don't think there's a plan behind his words. I think that right now, the Palestinians are focused on ensuring that the people who left the north in the beginning of this genocide are returning back and settling in with proper resources to ensure that they stay steadfast on their land in the north. This is the priority of the Palestinians right now, to ensure that there is temporary homes that go in, to ensure that there is clean water coming out from wells available to the people, to make sure that farms are being properly built, taken care of, sorry, to make sure that in the future there's a sustained source of income for people to work online from Gaza and to get access back to their bank accounts and for them to be able to do transactions with the world at large. They're now focused, the Palestinians, on actually making Gaza relivable back in a self-sustained way and in a way that preserves dignity to the Palestinians on the ground. There's a big focus by Israel and the US, I think, to voluntarily allow Palestinians to leave Gaza but not return. So the Palestinians right now are trying to make sure that no, we want you to live in dignity in Gaza. You've shown the world, all Gazan people, that despite everything, you plan to stay there. And inshallah, we will try to support you with that. And inshallah, try to help you with that in a sustainable way.
So it's been now a few months, and there's a clear decline in the for Westerners of information news coming out of Gaza. Is it safe to say that I don't want to say this war is over, because it's just this battle, maybe this battle, you could say. Would you say that it's over, this battle? Because a war is prolonged between two parties, and they have battles in between. So we haven't really heard much or seen much. So tell us what's happening. Is it coming to an end or what?
Okay. I will go back to Gaza, but first let me tell you about the West Bank. Yes, Gaza right now hopefully it's a permanent ceasefire, but right now there is a ceasefire, and I'll come back to touch on the future. But I think not a lot of people and a lot of news agencies are talking about what's happening in the West Bank. And I'm from Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you remember as well, a few weeks back, the PLO, the Palestinian Authority, made Al Jazeera, they don't even allow Al Jazeera to report from there anymore. So, and we need to understand that the Zionists, from a religious aspect, they don't care about Gaza. Gaza for them is just a big pain, like a pain, right? Their religious goals are in Hebron, in Jerusalem, in different areas in the West Bank, right? That's where they want to do their sacred red cow rituals. That's where they want to rebuild the King Solomon temple. That's where they think that that the Messiah and the end of times will happen if they do certain things in the West Bank. So the goal of the Zionist movement around the world is actually to take over the West Bank in totality. And later, of course, all the countries between the Nile River and the Euphrates River. But for them right now, let's calm the situation around us. Let's just focus on the West Bank with the least media coverage possible, and let's get our goals there. So right now, the takeover of the West Bank is happening in a very quiet manner. So it's important that we talk about that, I think, moving forward. But when it comes to Gaza, right now there's been a 3-phase ceasefire agreement. The first phase is 42 days, so almost a month and a half. So we're almost 5 weeks into that, with almost a week to 10 days into the phase 1 agreement being done. My understanding is that until now, the preparation, the negotiation for the phase 2 agreement on how it will be implemented has not started, unfortunately. So the Palestinians on the ground in Gaza, they are vigilant. They are preparing in case the war will restart in 10 days after the end of phase 1. However, today, the H group made an announcement through its political wing that they are gonna release the living prisoners and the dead corpses of those that should have been released 10 days from now, but they want to do it all earlier than the announced period in order to show good faith and to allow the mediators to not give the Netanyahu right-wing government any reason not to go further with the preparation for the second phase to start. So the people in Gaza are vigilant just in case the war in Gaza will restart. However, my feeling is that the American government doesn't want the war to restart in Gaza again. They want the stability. They want to try to restart the normalization of political the normalization between Israel and countries in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, like other countries. They want some kind of peace to be there in Gaza. They think that Israel cannot. There's nothing more to be achieved politically from reinstating that war in Gaza, and they can achieve more by doing things in the quiet, especially in the West Bank. And like I said, I think the American government, especially they want to try to focus on getting the buy-in from the leaders of countries around Israel to normalize again the relationship with them.
Okay, so you said that phase 1 is 42 days. Phase 2 is?
I don't remember right now.
Okay.
I think it's over a month, but I don't remember right now.
All right, so let's talk about Netanyahu then, since we brought him up. He has enemies inside of Israel that wanted to take him to trial, and he would be very in a lot of hot water if that was to take place. Has that been put on hold? I don't know if you're familiar with the internal working there, but is it on hold?
So I think that the Netanyahu government, what kept them intact, what kept Netanyahu in power until now, is the war on Gaza, right? Because having a war, especially on different fronts as well, it needs to unite. It unites the people, right? It forces the left to unite with the right, with the centrists. It forces the courts to postpone any proceedings or looking into what Netanyahu is accused of in the courts of the land. So I think that Netanyahu will be tried. I think that the internal issues in Israel will continue to escalate, especially as more and more leaders within Israel start to talk about what actually happened on October the 7th. When they talk about the Hannibal Directive, when they talk about how many Israelis were killed by Israeli forces on October the 7th, a day or two later, and inside Gaza. I think that there is a lot of differences of opinion and a lot of radicals in Israel, both on the left and the right, who are fully armed. And you might even see internal infighting between them. I think that the state of Israel is very, very fragile from within, and I think that if, for a minute, the U.S. decides not to support them politically or financially, I think that you will see Israel crumble overnight. But right now, I think for the Netanyahu government, if there is no war, I think that it will collapse, and I think that you will see Netanyahu on trial.
Can you define what you mentioned there, the Hannibal Directive, for those who aren't aware what it is?
So after the Shalit, there was a soldier called Shalit that was taken into imprisonment by the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, and the Israelis spent years trying to free him from Gaza, unsuccessfully. So they ended up trading Shalit for over 1,000 Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli jails. So since then, they worked on a directive within the Israeli government that we do not want to pay such a high price anymore for Israeli soldiers that are imprisoned, right? So the Hannibal Directive gives the authority to the military leaders uh, 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 in order to, if need be, execute the Israelis that have been possibly captured by the Palestinians, so that in the future they don't have to pay a price for that Israeli prisoner like they did for Shalit in the beginning. And that's why when the Palestinians took, for example, prisoners inside the different settlements around Gaza Strip, those areas, those buildings, and you could see it in the pictures and the videos, they were shelled, they were hit by tanks, they were hit by Apache helicopters, right? Any Palestinian that took Israeli prisoners in those settlements, and even in the Nova festival, they were being shot down by the Israelis themselves because they didn't want them to take prisoners. And when I was in Gaza, it was known. It was like whenever we saw shelling, like very very hard shelling on certain areas, we thought, yeah, for sure these Israelis, they had some kind of intelligence where they
Someone's
thought that
there.
someone is there, right? And there was a story that came out that three of the Israeli soldiers were able to free themselves, and they took out white flags and they started waving to the Israeli military to try and save them. But even those were shot down by the Israeli military,
Wow.
right? And so, yeah, that's the Hannibal Directive. They were more than prepared to kill their own and not care about their lives.
This Messianic group, last April, it's been 8 months now. They said that they have the 4 red cows, and before we get into the specifics of this red cow, can you tell us how influential the Messianic group is in Israel right now? Because we know that Israel is founded by atheists. The founding fathers of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, is an atheist. Netanyahu doesn't keep the Sabbath. I don't even know if he believes in God. All these original Israeli presidents, they're all atheists. They all despised these Messianic Torah Jewish believing types. They despised them completely. So, but now we're starting to see some of those. What's his name?
Ben
Gvir, all these guys representing that Messianic religious group. So, is there influence there, or is it fading away?
So I think it's similar to Trump and his alliance with the right-wing radicals in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think Trump was or is religious. He maybe just decided that, you know, these are the best people to align with in order to advance when it comes to politics and when it comes to ruling the United States. So I think that Netanyahu made that decision many years back to align with the right-wing religious groups in Israel in order to ensure that he remains prime minister and he has majority in the cabinet. So yes, Netanyahu himself is not religious, but he is aligning himself with the Smotrich and the Ben Gvir parties that are supposedly religious Jews. However, we need to separate the religious Jews in two different groups. There's the religious Zionist and there's the religious non-Zionist. If you talk with real Jews, you know, Jews that understand, the ordinance of Judaism, they will tell you that Israel is a terrorist state. They will tell you that what Israel is doing is against Judaism, and they shouldn't. They were living happily, and they should live under the Palestinians. actually, when I spoke with them in different events, they were telling me, Mansour, we want to live under Islamic rule because that's when we felt the most freedom. That's when we were given all our rights. The real Jews hate the Zionist state. They hate Israel. They hate how they've washed Judaism in such an evil way to the mainstream at large. Then there's the religious Judaism that are pro-Zionist, right? And this group, many of them, as per their teachings, they're not even allowed to serve in the military. So they're not willing to sacrifice themselves in order to achieve what they need to achieve because it's in their teachings. So within Israel, there's a big talk about how they have the most children, they get the most support from the government, yet they're not willing to sacrifice anything for the security of the state of Israel. So now this pro-Israel Zionist group, Jewish group, is right now, unfortunately, running the government. They are right now leading the cows ritual. They are the ones that are orchestrating the next phase. I think when it comes to these rituals happening in Jerusalem, and they are the ones I think with the strongest ties with the groups that you have in the United States. So unfortunately, they're the ones in the picture right now.
Let's get to the specific red heifer ritual because that was supposed to occur in April. What happened?
I don't know really. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it was a big hoopla, and they got their 3 or 4 cows 100% red.
Okay.
And they flew them over on American Airlines, and they were supposed to have whatever it is, the slaughter or whatever, and the Messiah was supposed to come. And they actually there was a lot of attention given to this youth, this young boy, right, who was now maybe 15, 16. And a lot of people gather around him that he would be the Messiah, right? But the reason that I ask this question is because if these are people who are being given free reign, right, in the West Bank from way before this, and that free reign may start extending into areas like Jerusalem. It's not so far-fetched to think that their religious zeal overflows and it brings that type of violence into Jerusalem.
I mean, definitely, I agree with you. But the violence in Jerusalem never left. I mean, they're so. Okay. I'm from Jerusalem, and until 2009, I had what you call the Jerusalem ID, right? However, in 2009, I was charged with several charges by the Israeli government. I was imprisoned, and then a court ruled that I'm a threat to the state of Israel. Hence, they revoked my Jerusalem ID, right? And they've done this to hundreds of thousands of people that are from Jerusalem, right? I mean, both through force, using their settlers, through military ways, through their courts. They're trying to empty Jerusalem and slowly take over the land that is occupied by the original people living in Jerusalem. And by the way, it's not just about Muslims. This is also about Christians, right? So I think that the violence and their takeover of land in Jerusalem, unfortunately, will continue, given that there's no one to hinder them there. And my understanding is one of the goals of Al-Aqsa flood was to bring back the compass of the Muslim world, was to bring back the attention of the world at large to the plight of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa. Before October the 7th, a lot of the Muslim people, a lot of people all around the world, a lot of Palestinians stopped talking about Jerusalem, stopped talking about Palestine. But subhanAllah, right now, you have people from all around the world talking about Palestine, about Islam, about Jerusalem, about Zionism. SubhanAllah, you feel as if one of the one of the outcomes of what happened in October 7th and its aftermath is that a lot of eyes right now are on Jerusalem. And I hope that that can serve as some kind of hindrance in order for them not to move forward with what they're trying to do. However, unfortunately, I think it needs much more, especially when it comes to the leadership in the area, when it comes to the pressure that powers like the United States puts against the state of Israel. Because unfortunately, some of the scholars as well, they prophesied that through the hadith, etc., that at one point Al-Aqsa Mosque might be damaged and collapse during the end of time. So none of us want to see this happen, right? We want to see Al-Aqsa, one of the holiest lands for Muslims, right, continue to stay standing. And this, yani, subhanallah, we all need to remain vigilant. We all need to continue to do whatever we can in order to keep Al-Aqsa alive and to talk about Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem and to support the Palestinian people on the ground.
A lot of people have been speaking about the charity work that's going on there.
Okay.
Syria,
Syria.
Palestine. Let's shift a little bit to charity work. Now, the biggest question is, what percentage of charities have emerged in your eyes that are not trustworthy? Because some of the worst of people are going to be those who take advantage of a situation, raise money, but then use it somewhere else. Now, I don't think that there are going to be organizations that blatantly just put money in their pocket, but they may be sloppy. They may say one thing and end up doing another. So let's talk a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what your experience is with the charities and also your own specific charity.
Let me take you through my journey in the world of charity. When I was in Gaza, my focus in the beginning was to, in English, talk to the outside world about what was happening in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my best to appear on as many TV channels as possible. I was doing live broadcasts with Al Jazeera, with Russia Today, with TRT, with different Canadian news channels. I appeared live on Fox News several times, different Australian, and I tried my best to get the word about what was happening in Gaza through different TV stations. And then people said, Mansour, you need to appear on social media, right? I told him, yeah, but isn't that where people like twerk and waste time? He said, Mansour, no, that generation that's twerking is now saying free Palestine. And they need to listen to people like you on the ground, especially talking from an Islamic stance. So please come now on social media and we'll help, right? So alhamdulillah, I had volunteers helping me to get on social media. Now, while on social media, I started getting interactions and messages from around the world saying, Mansour, we want to donate to Gaza, but we feel that our charity, our money is not getting to the people in Gaza. For me, I was never involved like in charity, like especially in Gaza. So, and I felt, and I was telling people, you know, I mean, donate to the charities that you trust, link directly with people on the ground in Gaza. You know, I was trying to give people advice. And then it came up to a point where I got so many messages asking about helping people on the ground with charity that I decided, okay, you know what? Let me start working on this in this area as well. So starting end of December, I think I started linking up with several people that I knew before during my time in Gaza. I lived in Gaza in the north, in the central region, in the south, and I started linking with local groups that used to work in charity and continued to work in charity in Gaza during my time there. And we found ways in order to channel people's donations directly to help the people on the ground there, like instantaneously, like within 24 to 48 hours, money comes in, projects get executed. When I left Gaza in March, I was approached by a lot of charities asking them to work with them full time, you know, like just helping out. And I always said, no, I don't want to work full time in charity. I want to try to help people on the ground directly using the ways that I know. But it came to a point, Dr. Shadee, where I noticed that a lot of charities, they really had a hard time channeling their donations to go into Gaza. Like they weren't able to find the right trusted people, right? Or their established local charities on the ground, which they had active in Gaza for many years, was not there anymore because those same people had their homes bombed, they lost their family, they themselves, subhanallah, got martyred. So they were finding it such a hard time to actually access the infrastructure that they had earlier and help the people on the ground. So at the end, I said, you know what? Let me try to help the charities at large get their money to help the people on the ground in Gaza. So I started linking up with local organizations, with partners that had offices in Turkey. And then, like I said, it became so overwhelming that I had to do this full time. So I decided to work full time with Humanity, a charity that started a few years back with brother Shuaib Khan and brother Firaz, and the agreement I had with them that I wouldn't be paid from the charity. That's number one, right? So Alhamdulillah, brother Shuaib, he has a lot other businesses. So he said, "Mansour, I'm going to pay you from, the one of the consulting businesses that I have, and we need you to help us, right? We need you to help us get channel the donations that are coming in to Humanity and other organizations that want to do work through Humanity and help Gaza." And that's where I try to add value, right? I can't comment on other organizations because I didn't go into their internal teams and processes. And however, I can assure you that I'm sure they're trying their best to do what's right, given the risks at present, especially in the United States and Canada and North America, especially given the transactions, the financial transactions and limitations that are placed by the banking system. Like every day we face challenges in this space. So I think people do appreciate that and they understand the difficulties when it comes to charities, especially those that want to take the risk and help Gaza, especially during the time that they needed it most, right? Inshallah, I think as time moves forward, inshallah, all the money in the charities right now will be moved into Gaza, into ensuring that Gaza is rebuilt again. And also, if you noticed, the Syrian government has worked tirelessly with the United States and other countries to make sure that the sanctions lifted on their banking system, and especially when it comes to having the charities work in Syria, are lifted. When I was back there a month ago, I think there was one decree that came from the United States government to lift some of these sanctions. So I think that slowly, inshallah, the charity space in North America will work freely in Gaza and Syria as before, and inshallah, the money there will be channeled properly moving forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, let me ask you this. When you mention rebuilding Gaza, the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know about everyone else, is that when there's a war in an urban center, the amount of concrete dust that just piles up everywhere and the amount of rubble, how are you going to rebuild? You got to first remove all that. How is that taking place? You need certain tools to do this, trucks, whatever, machines, and then you need a lot of space to put that stuff.
Yes.
That's always comes across my mind when people say we're going to rebuild, but how are you going to remove it? It's like 50% or 70% rubble.
So today was the first day since the start of the ceasefire that Israelis allowed heavy machinery to go inside Gaza, machinery that can be used to remove the collapsed buildings, the rubble, that can slowly make space for the rebuild to start happening. Mm-hmm. I think that your question is a very valid question, and I think that right now the efforts are focused on how we can make Gaza livable now, right? The focus isn't right now on building the actual cement structures. It's actually getting people through the spring, through the summer, making them have some kind of food, some kind of income. And I'll give you an example. I'm working with brother Sean, which you know, I think Sean King. For example, one of the things that we want to work on is establishing like temporary places of worship, temporary masjids, especially in time for Ramadan in Gaza, right? So people are not asking for the masjid to be rebuilt. They just want an area that they can pray in and do their salah, right? People aren't asking for their villas or their buildings to be erected right now. Inshallah, it's going to happen in the near future. But they're asking for like caravans. They're asking for like high quality, good quality tents, right? I think that the effort to rebuild Gaza needs to happen at a country level. All right. So, for example, a few months back, we had a conference sponsored by the Turkish government and the Qatari officials, right? Egyptian government officials, together with dozens of NGOs, talking about starting a consortium of NGOs together with country support to ensure that we rebuild Gaza properly, right? That we have different NGOs focused on different sectors. Okay, you guys can take care of the education sector. You guys can take care of the infrastructure. That other team can take care of the medical, right? And I am very optimistic. I do not go with the numbers that I'm hearing from the media that talk about 25 to 30 years to rebuild Gaza. The people of Gaza are very innovative. The minds of the free world at large are ready to contribute their time and their ability and their know-how to go into Gaza or even to contribute from outside Gaza to make sure that Gaza, inshallah, can be rebuilt again properly in a few years' time. However, like I said, I think we need to work it at a higher level. I think there needs to be more coordination between the NGOs and the countries involved, and I think it needs the support of different, not only our Muslim, our local NGOs, but needs the support of all of countries from all around the world, you know, especially the UN moving forward in Gaza.
All right, let's talk about rebuilding from another standpoint, governance. Who's governing this strip of land? Let's say rebuilding, but you said Israel wouldn't allow the machines in. So who are they talking to? Who is Israel talking to when they announce, yes, we're letting machines in, we're not letting machines in? Who is running this strip of land? Let's say you did rebuild. Well, who runs the courts? Who runs the import and export and all that stuff?
So Israel are saying, you know, the next day in Gaza will not include terrorist organizations such as the H group and so on, and they will not allow them to rule and govern Gaza anymore. I think it's up to the Palestinian people themselves. I think that if the people of Gaza are not happy with whoever governed them over the last few years, they're the only ones that are allowed to choose who to bring in, whether it be the old government or a new government. It shouldn't be left to the Israelis to demand who will govern Gaza. And I think that the Palestinians have made that sound loud and clear, that it's only Palestinians who will rule and govern Gaza. Even if other outside Arab or Muslim countries want to come into Gaza and try to interfere on how Gaza will be governed, I think that there are some political leaders that came out and said that we will treat any foreign entity that comes to try to rule Gaza other than Palestinians as a foreign entity. So Palestinians, I think, should be the ones to choose who will govern them, who to lead them moving forward. And Israel and Netanyahu can say whatever they want to say. You know, they have like a right-wing group that they need to keep happy. they will say sometimes things just to keep them quiet and just to ensure that they remain in power. However, time and time again, Palestinians have shown that they understand the political realm, they understand what their strengths are, that even someone like the leader of the supposedly biggest superpower in the world can give them an ultimatum to do something on a certain date, and they go against that, right? So I think that sometimes, subhanAllah, we underestimate ourselves. And alhamdulillah, I think that we have people who understand uh, what to say, when to say, and the different political positions that can be taken. And we always need to remember something, in my opinion, that the world will listen to you if they believe that you are strong and that you're resilient and you are powerful. They will not heed or listen to you if they believe that you are weak. So when that's one of the things that I tried to focus on when I was in Gaza, truthfully, of course, not to show the people that are dying or the homes that are demolished. No, to try to talk about the resiliency of the people of Palestine. What keeps them strong? You know, what the future lies. You know, why are people doing what they are doing? Right? And mashallah, there's a lot of subhanallah, yes, we need to understand, we need to shed light on the atrocities done by the Zionist state. But what's keeping us, subhanallah, strong and resilient is that our enemy understands that, subhanallah, these people, despite everything we throw at them, they're still remaining strong. They're still showing that they are able to control the situation on the ground. The people are still intact, right? Any society, Dr. Shadee, after months of atrocities, should have crumbled,
Yeah.
right? We have heard of robberies, mass killings, unfortunate issues between families, divorce rates, unfaithfulness. Like, subhanAllah, the people in Gaza, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down peace and tranquility on them. And given their strong understanding and practice of Islam, even before the war, subhanAllah, Allah was preparing them through 6 mini wars for this stage. And subhanAllah, we can see how they have, subhanAllah, lightened the whole world. You can see how someone like Ruh al-Ruh, he alone, how many people embraced Islam and came back to the fold of Islam because of his actions, right? So this is just one example, subhanAllah.
SubhanAllah, you talked about crumbling. The H group, as we're referring to, they recently released some images of new police officers out in the street, new uniforms, revived morale. So if you're an Israeli, you have to ask yourself, if all this onslaught has not ended this group, then what will? At some point, there's a reverse morale loss at that point. Hold on a second. There's no way after this level of onslaught, this group of people still have desire to keep their land, desire to stay in their land, and their current organization still exists. And by the way, that's the least important thing. Like the existence of this group in a war, like the structural organization of your politics is the least important. What's important is your morale and your will to continue this. And I think to myself, what's going on in their minds when they see that not only the people are coming back, the rebuilding, the morale is there, and the organization is still there too.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not about the age group, right? Like they think they can, okay, fine, annihilate the age group, but another form of resistance group will arise, right? So I agree with you 100%. I mean, when you, like even the more logical Zionists, right? They will say that Netanyahu and his policies have brought back the Zionist movement decades, right? They have ruined the image and shown the world the fallacy that we all lived in, right? When I left, subhanAllah, when I left Gaza and I met someone from the Canadian embassy, she told me that we're like right now when we try to talk about human rights and women's rights and children's rights to different groups in the Middle East, people will laugh at us, right? Because what happened in Gaza showed the fallacy of what the West tried to preach to the world, right? And subhanallah, Zionists spent over a century, 125 years, like trying to get into the financial system, into politicians' pockets, into the media, right? Trying to show a narrative of what their version of Judaism is and Zionism, and to show this beautiful picture of the state of Israel, how their peace and security and future. SubhanAllah, with a few videos on TikTok, all of this narrative was ruined, right? And that's the reason why, by the way, TikTok was supposedly going to be banned in the US. It's not because of China and their inability to control. No, they came out, and I read a statement that the reason they wanted to ban TikTok in the US is because it gave a platform, especially to the young people, to actually see the true face of Israel. And wallahi, yani, if I'm an Israeli, wallahi, if I'm an Israeli, or I would be fearful for my future, given what I have done to the people of Gaza. Because like you said, I've killed one, that one has brothers, has sons, has uncles, has you know, like this, I'm actually multiplying the number of people that will resist.
100%.
Right?
Well, that's what Musk.
Moving forward, right?
Yeah, that's what Musk said before he got called down to the principal's office and spanked. He was talking common sense, and he was saying, well, I don't understand how this makes any sense, because every time you kill one of them, you're just producing 5 more opposition. And every time that you, and it's irrelevant whether they call themselves H group, next one is going to be G group, I group, J group. The name is irrelevant. The structure is irrelevant. It's the morale and the care of the issue that matters. And that other thing it can be rebuilt pretty easily. And they've totally lost basically all world support on the ground level. Maybe at the institutional level where there's a lot of money and influence, then no, for sure. But it reminds me of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَغِيظَ بِهِمُ الْكُفَّارِ. It's, you always want the wrongdoer, the oppressor, to be agitated. And when you think, well, what in the world is the point of a small little group have no chance to fight a bigger Goliath? Well, it does have a chance, because if that Goliath is truly corrupt, what we needed for him to expose himself for what he truly is and what he really is. And that's exactly what happened. And now they're despised with what they're doing, what they stand for, how they're reacting to this. Even Jerry Seinfeld yesterday went around, and I mean, he's fully despised now, right? So to لِيَغِيظَ بِهِمُ الْكُفَّارِ, Allah tells us your enemy should be agitated, constantly agitate him, fight against him, agitate him, because once he gets off his rocker, he's not going to act right, and he's actually going to harm himself. And if October 7th had happened, and basically there was a very calm response, a muted response, you could have a strong response, but with some calmness, you probably would have came out on top. Everyone would sympathize with you, and everyone would hate those people who did it. Now, if you ask people what happened, most people cannot probably remember the incidents of October 7th. They remember everything that happened afterwards, because you guys went so far. I mean, what's the number? 80,000? I don't even know what we'll ever know the real number, but it's definitely hovering up to 100,000. Let alone the displaced and all these other calamities. So we'll see what happens now in the West Bank. They'll probably do a smarter strategy of quietly taking one house after another in the West Bank. But we will be in communication with you in the future. Any last words before we wrap up?
Jazakumullah khair. I think, mashallah, your team, yourself, mashallah, Dr. Shadee, you're doing an amazing job. And mashallah, may this minbar that you are on continue to be a source of light to Muslims and to free people all around the world. Jazakumullah khair.
I mean, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming on. Our audience was very excited to have you on and to hear your perspective on things, or the information that you have that we don't have here. You're staying up late in Egypt, and now you're in Egypt now, or you're in
I'm back in Doha,
back
inshallah,
in
in
Qatar.
couple of days, Damascus, inshallah.
Okay, so we're keeping you near towards midnight, so I apologize for that. Jazakumullah khair, and thank you very much.
An honor.
All
Jazakallah.
right. Assalamu alaikum. All right, there you have it, folks. That was Mansour Shouman, who is one of the really people who rose to the top. He did so well after this, in this crisis, in this calamity, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives crises and calamities. On one hand, it's to see how people react. That's the tribulation for people who are not affected, is to see how they're going to react. And he's somebody who could have lived a very different life. As you said, worked for one of the big four, which are what, KPMG, Ernst & Young, what's the other one? PwC, and Deloitte is the fourth one. Yeah. So the big four accounting firms in the world that, and they do a lot of other consulting. So, alhamdulillah, that was it was good to touch base, because I noticed after a while, you know what, like what happened to that part of the world? Like we're not hearing a lot of news anymore from them, and we needed to touch base. Joey Paisano liked this interview. Rose SG liked this interview. A lot of people, mashallah. Celestial Night and Al-Had, mashallah, their fingers are getting some exercises. They're sharing a lot of good ayat here, mashallah. Ryan, what's your comment?
Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel.
Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel is what we have to say to these people. And it's not gonna last. There is no way this is gonna last. The state of Israel was not going to last, probably even another 100 years. When you're so tethered to one nation, and that nation is basically seems to be on their last kick, right? And then it's going to be a descent, right? Even those who are really pumped and excited about, let's say they're on the right wing side of things, and they're really pumped and excited by Trump, and they're saying this is the golden age. Yeah, golden in relative to like a human's life, because the golden age is at the end, right? Relative to a human's life, golden age as an expression. Because, okay, after he dies, which is very soon, then what, right? He's already out of energy, you could tell. Then what? This whole thing was like a personality. It spun on the pivot of a personality. Take him out of the personality. Who's your leader? J.D. Vance? Watch his speech for more than 10 seconds. I'll pay you. You have to get paid. You cannot watch this guy for more than 10 seconds unless you're a diehard guy. You can't watch him for more than 5 minutes, this guy. He's not leading. Yeah, he'll lead what you have now, but he is not garnering support, getting excitement. Yeah, he's not the guy. You don't have anyone. I mean, Mac, if you put it, the only guy who could, he can't do it close as near a job of galvanizing people as Trump did. Is what's his face? Huh? No. He left Fox News. What's his name?
No.
Who's the dude who left Fox News in a scandal, and now he's on X? He's been on fire. No, not that guy. What's his name? Oh, I forgot that. Zahid. Zahid. He's a Zahid. Completely could not even ask him who's the president. Right? No, he's a Zahid. Tucker Carlson. Thank you. Tucker Carlson. He's so different now. But Tucker Carlson is the guy who can hold an audience, but he's not as exciting as either, right? He knows media. What is Joe Rogan? Is this going to be smoking drugs or what? What's his platform, right? Let's fry our brains. No, I'll tell you what it could be. It's not going to be from the right next. The next wave, it's going to be Stephen A. Smith.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yep. That is going to be the next wave. Nothing is exciting anybody, all right? That he is exciting people. You can't possibly run for politics anymore for president unless you're a media personality to be able to get attention. And this guy not only knows how to get attention, he knows how to take a hit. But if he, you know what, if he could do, if he could do a facelift on liberals, like just make liberals like the old fashioned liberal who's like really just a nice guy, a relaxed guy who's not racist, right? And who's like, yeah, like not racist, doesn't have to be so crazy with the woke stuff, right? Doesn't have to be, yeah, like the old-fashioned liberals, like, all right, you're a Muslim, fine, or you're gay, fine, whatever. That's the old-fashioned liberal, right? Not this kind of liberal who, do you support trans this and trans that? It's like, you're not liberals anymore. You've gone crazy. You've gone crazy. If he could redo and just do a facelift on liberals, but I'm telling you, I'm telling you, once Trump goes, when he dies, this whole movement dies with him. And then I really start to think, you look at history, we're on the way down. If we're on the way down, Israel's definitely on the way down, right? And the one thing that I always support is the America First policies, because not in terms of like, oh, you have to build your factories here, that stuff never works. People will build their factories where it's cheapest, and that's tough luck for you. But from the perspective of cutting funds to Israel. And that is the line. That will get you basically eliminated. They have to eliminate everybody who says that. And there was a guy, I think, ran for senator. He won. He's Jewish. I got to get the New York Times article on him. He does an about face. And he says, America First, cut all funds for Israel. Right. SubhanAllah.
I was used to think like these religious Zionist folks, how they continue to bomb Gaza on Saturdays.
Yeah, I know. On Saturday. Pork Chop says he calls them meme presidents. Yeah, the president has to become a meme. He's got to be meme worthy to get attention. All right. Danish C, invitation to the Elif convention at York U. This is the original York, I guess, and we're in New York, so that's in England. Okay, we'll see. Subhanallah. Just another human is not pleased with Pork Chop Sufi's name. What, school out or what? It's not summer yet. You know, summer, all the kids come out. I had a limited understanding of going on in Syria prior to the revolution, and thanks to Safina Society for bringing this Ummah relevant news. Thank you very much. Let's see what this unboxes. I'm happy we were able to do that. That's part of our agenda, is affairs of the Ummah, Ilm al-Kalam, biographies of prophets, and some rulings in the QA, which is, we're about to wrap up because I have class now. We're about to wrap up, and we got to go. But let's see this unboxing real quick. Let's see what you got there. By the way, you guys know who's in the studio. Your old admiral who was at the helm, their old captain at the helm, Ryan, is in the studio, having taking a little sojourn back from his studies, and he'll be joining us whenever he can. I guess if you take that job, we're not going to see much of you, right? If we're doing memorization, should we also factor in the time to do khatm in the month of Ramadan? What I understand is that the people who are doing hifz do not do khatm. They stick with hifz, and Allah knows best. Let's see. What do we got? A painting? We need someone to come and hang all this stuff up. Let's see. What do we have here? Joey Paisano, no, I'm not teaching class. I am the student. I'm taking class. Let's see, what do we have here? Take your time. A lot of bubble wrap. Oh, Ryan, people are asking, what's going on with your trip? How is it? How has your studies been so far? Is his mic on?
Yeah, it's on. Alhamdulillah. Studies are going well. Alhamdulillah.
Mm-hmm.
Just Ramadan takes a break from classes. So we come and visit as much as possible.
MashaAllah. So, did you go to Nabiullah Hud?
Yeah, that was the last thing I did.
The whole school
It's
went,
crazy.
right?
It was like 8 days ago I was there.
SubhanAllah.
Or like
4-day trip, right?
It was 6 days.
SubhanAllah.
It was from Tuesday to Sunday. So last Sunday I was there. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah.
Special trip, and then I visited Oman for a little bit, a really little bit, and then came back here. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Very good. Very good. Aziz Hidayatullah, can we have a similar stream with Madhab Shafi'i? How about this? How about we do streams dedicated to Shafi'i Fiqh QA, Hanbali Fiqh QA, and Hanafi Fiqh QA, right? Because this stream is biased, right? It's biased. It's only giving you the Maliki answers. What about our Shafi'i friends? What about our Hanabila and Hanaf? We got to give them a stream. Secondly, is it better to do qada or tarawih? No, you have to do qada. Qada.
If you're Shafi, you could do both.
In Shafi'i, you could do both, he says.
You do your
Wait, you can combine them?
Yeah, you could pray behind, as long as the look of the prayer is the same. You could pray behind someone who's praying a different prayer than you.
So he can pray 2 rakas of tarawih, and I intend fajr. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. He can do 2 tarawih, and I can do isha,
Yeah,
and then add 2 more.
yeah.
Whoa, this is a game changer for people.
As long as there's not something that changes it, like janaza, obviously.
Of
you can't
course.
pray Isha behind
But you
someone
can't.
praying
But you
janaza.
can't pray dhuhr, qada of dhuhr behind tarawih, which is out loud.
ما في مشكلة.
You can do that too.
Yeah, the loudness and quietness.
The loudness and quietness doesn't matter,
Yeah.
folks.
It's a kiswa.
It's Kiswat al-Kaaba. That's Kiswat al-Kaaba, I think. It's all black. It's just a frame.
You can build your own kiswa now.
Yeah.
Almost like just have your own.
I know.
Your own Kaaba.
All right, let's see what this is. Is there a note with it?
I don't think, yeah, there's no note, but
Keep banging the mic here. Let's see. Oh, I know what this is.
The cover of the Kaaba.
I think
Those are behind you. Yeah.
I think I can
Yeah,
figure out
cover.
what this is.
Kiswa.
You know what this symbolizes? You hang this, and it's basically saying no nafs, nothing. Right? No, I'm just messing, but I don't know. Oh no, something is supposed to go here. See, they have holes here. There are holes. Something is supposed to go inside this frame. We shall find out.
Maybe there's a second package coming.
Here.
النفس ميت. إنك ميت.
Yeah, innaka maytun wa innahum maytun. Does everyone here own a kafan? Do you own your own kafan right now? You guys should own your own kafan. Do you have your kafan, your shroud? No, you gotta go out and buy a shroud. Keep it right next to your bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see it every morning and every night.
It's an important sunnah to have the will written under your pillow.
And the will, you gotta have a will too.
Umar say, he mentioned from the hadith or
Mhm.
maybe from one of the athar or something, that the person who doesn't have a will written under their pillow, if they die, they won't be able to do ziyarah of the other graves as their soul.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
Ajib. How about this? How do I join Safina Society? Will you go to arcview.org and you join our learning group? Because this is the general talk. Arcview.org is where you're going to go for the learning group. And I have an announcement for everyone in Arcview, by the way. Something we're going to roll out in the future is that my WhatsApp thing will be for all the students who want to come. But Ash'ari Aqidah, Maturidi Aqidah, Hanbali Aqidah, Hanafi Fiqh, Maliki Fiqh, Shafi Fiqh, Hanbali Fiqh. These specific classes and Arabic It will be limited to the people who take the class. The WhatsApp chat link will be only given out in class, and it will be changed maybe once a year, right? Because those teachers can't teach the students if it's filled with 500 people. No, and they're asking random questions. Random questions you can bring to me, okay, in my chat. Because people who don't know this, that in ArcView, there's a whole chat community. And that's how people are learning through, but they cannot learn if there's too much traffic of non-learners or people who aren't taking it seriously, are not taking it seriously. Everyone takes it seriously, but they're in a different class. So only for that class. And that's something we're going to roll out in a little bit. Can we wear Crocs and do Umrah? That's too much. Can you wear Crocs and Shafi fiqh and do Umrah?
It's heels and toes. I don't know.
You got to reveal your heels and toes.
Yeah.
And the strap should not be a lot. Omar, do you have a second? Just put it up for a second. We are trying, since we brought up Umrah, we are raising money for Umrah for youth. We've been wondering, how are we going to raise money for Umrah for youth? And, Basmala Beads approached us. Basmala Beads approached us. Let's put that up, Omar. That they will give us, they made for us a Safina Society colored limited edition Misbah. And if you type in Youth Umrah, you get it discounted 50%. You see that? Look at that. That is a good one. Nice colors. Ryan, which one are you going for? The white or the black?
I like the dark ones.
You're into dark?
Yeah.
Omar, which one are you going for? That's a tough one. I'm going to go for both. One, the black one for istighfar and everything else, and the white one for salawat. Yeah, I need to keep count. Like the Westerners, they got two going, right?
One in each hand.
So you go to bestmetabeads.com. I'm going to stick that in there. bestmetabeads.com and stick that in there, and you can get your beads there. It's a great Ramadan gift. We're rolling it out as a Ramadan gift. Now, let me tell you, 100% of what comes to us from this is going to Umrah for youth. Okay? 100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to run. Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody. We'll take Q&A later. Flossie B, your question, a hijab symbolizing a dream. It depends where the hijab, is it coming off? Is it coming on? Depends. So let's take your Q&A afterward. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll do a long Q&A. How much should we factor in marriage moving away quite far from your parents for a woman? E.g. 1.5 hours. That's not the question. I think that where you work and sustain the family takes priority, and then she moves to you. That's probably the ideal. It's always better, I think, if she moves towards you, but there's no set rules for these things, but I think it's better if she moves towards you. All right, folks. We will talk later, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat. Wa tawassaw bil haqq. Wa tawassaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaykum.
Aşkınla arasında yıldızlar kadar zikredin. Uzlat şarabından için. Şu canı aşkla versinler. Ya kalbe şifa ver.